I'm excited though to talk to you about keeping candidate experience at the, part of recruitment through uh, communication and uh, interview prep. I know interview prep can be a little controversial depending upon what we're talking about. So I am really excited to unpack this with you. My presentation is completely different than the one that you just saw. If you follow me on social media, you know that I'm obsessed with Wonder Woman and that my handle across social is at Recruiting Shiro. But feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. I have a QR code here and let's jump into it. I want to start with a few stats and a few questions actually. So I'd love for this presentation to be interactive. So I'd love for you to literally, answer the questions in the chat if you can. So what do you think? Think of like the number one or the top two reasons that job seekers or candidates, I should say, reject actual job offers. So we get them all the way across the finish line or close to, and then they reject them. Just give everybody a minute to comment. I have to admit, I'm not going to be able to keep up with all of the interactions here in chat. But yeah, pay, their experience, culture fit. We're a room full of recruiters, right? We know why they're rejecting or asking, or hopefully they tell us why. All right. So interestingly enough, and CareerArc recently did a survey, and over 25% has to do with total compensation wasn't as expected. Over 25% role and responsibilities didn't align with the actual job post or the original job that the candidate was talking to whoever at the organization about. Almost 20% for negative experience, and I think that's definitely a common sense. Workplace environment. I dug into what this almost 15% means, and it was the difference between whether it was, in-house or in-person, hybrid, or remote. And almost 13% rejected the offer because the process was too long. Within that 13%, in all honesty, I know I don't have all the data here for you. That 13% included folks that had accepted offers elsewhere right around that same time. So is this surprising to anyone? I'm guessing it's not, but I think this is some important information for what we're about to talk about next. I don't know if you knew that 72% of job seekers are likely to share their experience interviewing online, whether it's on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, if they had a great experience or a negative experience, however they perceived it. Their job seekers, according to CareerArc, 72% of them have no problem talking about their experience, even if they're in the process of being considered for a role. Found that to be a very interesting fact. I'm curious, if you were going to guess, I was completely wrong when I guessed, but what percentage of job seekers do you think reported being ghosted multiple times during their job search in 2023? Yeah, see, these numbers they're high. Like even 54% seems high, right? Like this is, we hear about ghosting all the time. Well, 40%. It was lower than I thought. And again, this is just who was surveyed, but 40% of job seekers, Jobra surveyed, admitted to being ghosted multiple times during their job search last year. Now we're almost halfway through 2024. I'm definitely going to kick off a poll right after this event today, and on LinkedIn, hopefully you'll participate and see if that number has increased or decreased so far in 2024. You might like, why is Rachel sharing this random stats that we may know or know it's common sense? But it's because I think recruiters spend a lot of time asking themselves this question. What can I do as a recruiter to ensure that I'm doing everything I need to do to get my job done? And I believe that something that is lacking, especially as a job seeker myself, I've had 2 full months just getting a taste of what it's like to be a job seeker in 2024. But communication needs to be at the heart of any candidate experience you're trying to provide. So there's 4 areas. I'm going to break these down, but just generally the application process and the job post, timeline expectations. This is all I think common sense to us here as recruiters. General and regular updates to candidates and interview prep. Well, what do I mean by that? I want to share just a few more stats with you in case you didn't know. In 2025, just about 6 months away, Gen Z will make up close to 30% of the labor market. Baby boomers in 2025, again, just 6 months away, will make up 7% of the labor market. Now, I'm not trying to get into a generation versus, any sort of debate on, generations, but I think we can all agree that each generation, from baby boomers to Gen X to millennials to Gen Z and so on, we're all a little bit different, and there's some things you can kind of profile us by. But knowing that Gen Z will be 30% of the labor market just in about 6 months, I think focusing on communication, well, I know focusing on communication is the thing that is literally going to save recruiters and save your employment brand. 55% of Gen Z was surveyed, said the same thing from Jabra, said that DEIB or some sort of DEIB programming was important to them when they were like selecting an employer. So again, when we're thinking about a job post, if we have a program like that, we should write about that. That's something that is going to attract Gen Z. It's estimated that Gen Z will average 10 jobs between the ages of 18 and 34 years old. These stats are going to make sense in a little bit. 78% of Gen Z that was surveyed expects growth opportunities on a consistent basis, professional development opportunities wherever they work. And they're, like I said before, we're talking 10 jobs between the ages of 18 to 34 about for this generation. They're expecting growth opportunities pretty quickly within that first year. And over 80% of Gen Z that was surveyed said, this was interesting to me, that benefits, healthcare benefits, including mental health care benefits, were a priority when they were making a decision, regardless of what age they're at today and whether they're on a family plan or not, for their future. And quite honestly, the principal wanting to work for an organization that values health and mental health is health for their employees. So for whatever it's worth, I thought those stats would be helpful as we move forward. So let's break down these four areas. I apologize here. The application process. So I've been a job seeker for just over 2 months now. I'm blogging about it at recruitingshero.com. You may follow me, if you do, on TikTok or LinkedIn or Twitter, anywhere. I've been talking for the last 2 months about some of the ridiculous things that I've experienced or witnessed in the application process. It takes an extra, let's say 5 minutes to review your job application specific to your open requisition, and just a triple check, make sure you're not asking for, a LinkedIn profile 3 times. making sure that you yourself, and not just you yourself, but your hiring managers and other folks within your organization are at least once or twice a year going through the application process and testing it, get feedback. Um, the average, I'm going to be sharing a bunch of stats and data that I've collected at the end of June, but I can tell you as of right now, over 62% of the applications that I've personally completed have taken anywhere from 25 to 35 minutes to complete. And I'm not complaining. I'm willing to put in the work. And I think most job seekers are. But if this is something that we can do to create a better experience, um, and because we're all competing for talent, it's something that can set us apart. Ensuring in the application process that the process and application is unbiased. Are we asking candidates accidentally, did we check a box in the ATS before we publish that requisition to require the year they graduated from college or high school? Just triple checking that, because that type of thing or that type of mistake can lead to turning candidates off, and they may abandon the application altogether. And again, auditing and reviewing the application process on a regular basis is so important. And I don't know what your experience has been with your hiring managers. I've had the experience, over 10 years of experience with, no two hiring managers have been the same. But my hiring managers have been, yes, extremely busy, but they have been more than willing to at least do a test application, once a year to help me out. And I find it's a way to also just start the conversation and maybe do some quick tips and some, additional hiring manager training. Job posts. There's so many different ways. Some folks, some recruiters and organizations post the actual job description. Some organizations post, a shorter version of that. But what is important in job posts, and I can tell you, many organizations that are hiring today are missing the mark, specifically in for recruitment roles that I've been applying for. But clear requirements and desired qualifications are so important. I don't know about you, but I was recruiting for all of last year and most of first quarter this year, and I wasn't getting hundreds of applicants per requisition. I was getting thousands, which is a great problem to have. But imagine if my job post did not have clear requirements and what was actually required. I then would end up with a pool of twice as many unqualified candidates. Salary range and benefits. In many states, providing a range is required. In many states, it is not, depending upon where you're located. Post your range. Don't break the law if it's required. But I also encourage you, if you're in states that do not require that range, and you have any sort of impact or ability to persuade whoever makes the decision on whether you're posting ranges, that you nudge them, or that you get brave and you post that. And benefits, because again, 30% of the labor market just in 6 months said that benefits, whether they're going to need them right away or not, are a huge factor in their decision, in where they're going to work. Location. Just yesterday, I think I posted on LinkedIn. It was so funny. I found a job I was interested in. I got really excited. I spent probably, I don't know, let's say 10, 12 minutes researching the company a bit, got my cover letter together, made sure my resume and my wording, aligned, did all the things, right? Went through the application process. And in the last 3 questions, one of the questions were, are you willing to work remote? It was either 2 or 3 days a week in New York City. Well, the job post itself said remote, but what they meant was, are you willing to work hybrid? remote, hybrid, and on-site. I think we all know this, but it seems like there's some confusion out there. It feels to job seekers like a bait and switch when we post remote. Don't mention that that it's hybrid throughout the body of the job post, and then hide that knockout question at at the end of the application. You're causing applicants to waste close to 20 minutes just filling out the application, and who knows how much time ahead of time. So candidate experience is so important. And just audit your job posts. You may have evergreen roles, or you always have something posted, but things change. Qualifications change, salary ranges change. Open enrollment comes around, and there's new benefits to offer. Use those to showcase why your organization and why the role is so amazing. Timeline expectations. This is something that I think is imperative to providing that world-class candidate experience around communication. So many recruiters and hiring teams, employers don't provide timeline expectations. For me, I always pad the time. If I'm going to be able to get back to my candidate by Wednesday, I'm going to tell them it's going to be Friday, because there's always a mishap or thing like that. But even if I don't have an answer by Friday, I am going to get back to them. And this, again, I'm talking to some very, exceptional recruiters here, a ton of you with a ton of experience, but sometimes I think we just forget to go back to the basics and remember that how important this is. This job seeker, you may have thousands of applicants applying for, one role, or maybe you have, 40 recs on your desk, but this applicant is applying for hundreds of organizations. And just having some basic human respect for candidates in play is just so important. Sharing what the interview process could look like. I saw something really cool on LinkedIn the other day. I clicked on a job ad. It ended up being, I think it was located in Sweden. But one of the coolest things was at the bottom of the application, it had just a quick breakdown. It was to the point, it wasn't wordy, and it let you know what the process could look like if you were selected to move forward to a recruiter screen, and where you may progress, going forward. And for what it's worth, it was only a 4-step process. It was a non-technical role, though. And reiterating throughout the entire process, you have candidates, you're pulling them through. Sometimes, especially when we're hiring executives or senior level technical and non-technical experts, it's important to continue to reiterate what to expect next, because oftentimes these folks are going through longer and more grueling interview processes elsewhere. But regardless of someone's level, it doesn't hurt to get some automated email templates. I'm all for automating when it makes sense, and having that human contact when that makes sense. But why not put together a few email templates, just checking in with candidates when your process is going to be longer. I am currently still waiting for CHRO to get back to me, from 2020. And I was grateful. In my most recent interview, the hiring manager told me that they likely, were going to ghost me. But if I didn't hear from them in 2 weeks, that I wasn't being considered further. I'm grateful for the information. However, I have some strong opinions on that. I'm sure you do too. General and regular updates. Again, this feels like common sense for us recruiters here, but we get so caught up in all the work, and especially seeing what's going on in tech right now, and seeing recruitment teams slashed or almost completely cut. Recruiters have a lot on their plate. So I just want to remind you, it's okay to take a breath and slow down a bit. I know that you have a deadline. I know that pesky time to fill metric is important to, somebody in your organization. But just remember, sometimes when you slow down in the beginning, it actually, helps you speed up towards the end. But take your time. Ensure that get to know your candidate. Don't treat candidates like numbers or like they're at the weight counter at the DMV. If you are taking the time to screen a candidate, take the time. That doesn't mean spend 30 to 60 minutes on the phone with someone that's absolutely not qualified. But if you're on a call with them, give them 10 minutes, give them some feedback, something, get to know them. Again, this goes back to what we were talking about before on the previous slide. Check in with your candidates ongoing, a minimum of at least once a week, and let candidates know you didn't forget about them. I cannot tell you how many times I've likely been forgotten in the last 9 weeks by recruiters or hiring managers or whoever I was speaking to, and it's I don't know, it's a horrible feeling. Interview prep. I am, after this presentation today, I'm going to reshare a LinkedIn post that I made about a year ago, sharing my process of what interview prep looks like. And I just want to preface this by saying, I'm not saying candidate coaching. I'm talking about just general interview prep. A lot of it can be automated, but also in my opinion, it needs to be personalized for the candidate as well. Especially as someone who is neurodivergent myself. I have ADHD and autism. I'm sure the ADHD is coming through big in this presentation. But just having someone to talk to, even for 5 minutes ahead of an interview, a day ahead, a few days ahead, can really help a candidate just show up as their best self and help them, get rid of some of those jitters. And again, talking about automating interview prep, what material information can you share? Do you have a one-pager on your organization? Do you want to share a link to, or another one-pager on what is the STAR method? I take it as far as, sharing a base set of interview questions, not the, technically the interview questions, but it shows the candidate, because we're talking like this is a technical interview, going to be asked technical questions. I let candidates know that don't memorize answers to these questions, but at least it gives you an idea of what you're walking into. Quick tips. I always give 5 to 15 minutes to candidates and that take me up on it if they have questions. And I would say probably, 45 to 50% of candidates took me up on candidate prep first quarter this year, but last year it was closer to 95%. So I'm not sure what is changing in the market other than, and from the mindset of the job seeker, but I think it may have to do with a bit of, the shift generationally that's going on right now. So I have not been keeping track of time, Daniel. I'm sorry. I'm getting close to being done here, but it's up to you to change the narrative when it comes to candidate experience. I know that recruiters get a bad rap, but again, after being unemployed for the last 2 months and being out here, I want you to remember, whether you've been in an organization and recruiting there for years and years, you're brand new, or maybe you're unemployed and you're searching for your next role. The experience that you have as a recruiter may have been in a bubble. I know mine sure has, because it has been very eye-opening, to sort of the lack of candidate, positive candidate experience, or the lack of communication that I have been, receiving. And, most of us have ATSs where we can automate everything if we really want to, and at least provide the bare minimum communication if that's the brand, if that's the recruiting brand we're going for, but that's not even happening. And that makes me sad, because like you, I love being a recruiter. So you may not know this, I've been a Malcolm Jamal Warner fan since I was a little girl, but this is a quote that sticks with me. It's like, are you going to talk about it or are you going to be about it? And this can really apply to anything, but I challenge, each and every one of you to not, sort of, dismiss this sort of basic presentation and getting back to some of these basics, but to really think about it and um, take the time to audit all of your communication and processes. Um, and if you have teammates, talk to your teammates, see what they're doing. It's really easy to sort of just put our head into our laptops or into the figurative sand and just review resumes and just boom, 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 pump out the candidates and the interviews. But if we're not taking time to audit our work, um, I don't, then, we're already behind. So again, here is a, doohickey. Why am I forgetting what this is called? But you can go ahead and follow me on LinkedIn. Again, my website is recruitingshero.com. And I just want to say, hire easy, and Daniel, thank you so much.